There are many changes in the history of drum corps, usually in terms of instrumentation or the way that the programs are put on the field. There is a change that we cannot control, and that is the change that's happening to our climate right now. And that change is affecting our activity. Nobody knows it better than Dr. Kevin Kloesel, who is Drum Corps International's chief meteorologist. You lead a team of 3, Spencer Atkins, Tyler Hollingsworth on that team, come to be known as the Legion of Doom.
The Legion of Doom, yes we are. And we were coined that from a corps director. So
it's, you guys are charged with keeping the performers safe in weather situations. And there's always been discussion about storms and lightning and rain. But the last 5 years, what's dominated the weather discussion in drum corps has been heat. What trend have you seen in the last 5 years?
So we have sort of an administrative staff / instructors. They've all marched. They marched in a different climate, and their notion of hot is not today's notion of hot. We've been taking detailed measurements for the last 5 years on almost every event, performance surface, venue, rehearsal venues, you name it. And what we're noticing is a deterioration of comfort. So the human comfort side of heat, performance surfaces like the artificial turf that get incredibly hot, dangerously hot, over temperatures that can burn skin. We also have this combination of lack of wind, even in Oklahoma, with high humidity, high temperatures, sunshine, and really looking at the enhancement or increase in the number of heat-related illness cases that we're seeing across corps, across activities, across almost every summer activity, whether it's band or an athletic pursuit. It could be tennis, soccer, football, you name it. We're seeing increases across the board, and our emergency rooms around the country are bearing this out, right? The emergency room heat numbers all across the country are going up, and particularly through the months of April through September. That's, of course, drum corps season's right smack in the middle of that.
I should point out that Dr. Kloesel is the meteorologist for the University of Oklahoma, based in Norman. I work in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on the pretty side of the state, and the cooler, often the cooler side of the state.
Yes, absolutely
too.
The cooler side of the state.
What do you think is the number one thing that corps directors and instructors need to be aware of because of climate change?
Well, first of all, the directors have been very much embracing the change, right? So we've seen already our ability to move the start times of events, particularly in Texas, across the South, to after sunset. After sunset, once the sun goes down, heat illness risk does in fact decrease. That's provided we're not out in the middle of it, all day long, or at least taking the necessary precautions, hydration, et cetera. But the willingness to change is going to be the key here, right? And if we've already seen this willingness to change events and event times, now it's, can we change the structure of rehearsals? Can we move things to earlier in the morning, to later in the evening, do more intellectual mental skull session type of work, video work during that heat in the afternoon, where we're still giving the performers the necessary training and instruction that they need, but not doing it where they're being taxed both physically and mentally by heat, because the heat does impact both, right? You're cognitive as well as physical.
In the presentation you just gave at the DCI winter meetings, you pointed to an event at Prairie View A&M,
yes,
in which there was an event going on, a camp during the day, and then a massive event during the evening where almost 40 people got sick after sunset.
Right. It was a mass casualty event due to heat, and it was, again, this heat issue is not instantaneous. Heat is cumulative. So your susceptibility to heat illness increases the more exposure you get. You can almost think about this from a standpoint of, you have a full glass of water and you drink half of it, but you only put a little bit back in. So the next day you've only got just over half of that water. Well, you drink most of it. The next day you put a little bit back in, you still got a little bit of water, but now you're farther down the heat illness spectrum on day 2, day 3, day 4 than on day 1. Yes, they're cumulative, and that's what happened it's an orientation week. It's a week-long activity, and unfortunately, these are our kids too, right? Same age, mostly university students, many of them band students, on a football field, on an artificial surface in Texas in August. And this cumulative effect ultimately broke into a mass casualty event after dark, after the last evening of the performances, and you had people who had to be airlifted because they were in such bad shape. But yeah, 40 kids, university students, going to the hospital because of something that was preventable, right? And that's where we are looking at these kinds of events and going, wow, the parallels to what we do in drum corps, to what an HBCU band does, for example, and the athleticism and all of those things. We have to think about how we mitigate heat and how we recharge our performers so that they can give the best shows when our fans come to see them.
How do you think Drum Corps International and its member corps have done with that assignment so far?
We're making progress. We're not there, right? We've still got a lot of work to do, but it's not going to happen overnight. But at this point, again, like I said earlier, the ability to change an event time, that's a big deal. And we had quite a discussion about that afterwards, about changing event times and can you do it sooner and more proactively and things like that. And those are the right questions to be asking, right? From a director's standpoint, those should be the demands of the meteorology group to provide the expertise to make us safer. And I'm pleasantly surprised that we were charged to do that. That shows sort of a shift in thinking about how we think about heat.
Do you expect 2024 will set a heat record like 2023?
I do. I think so. We're in an El Nino pattern in the Pacific. That's, fancy weather, weenie, nerdy jargon for it's going to be hotter because of warm temperatures in the Pacific. We're still looking at this is not going to go away.
What's the number one change you'd like to see made?
Our ability to impact a rehearsal schedule to make sure that our performers have the best chance to give that ultimate performance for the fans. Are they the freshest they can be while maintaining excellence, right? Maintaining that level, that bar that DCI has set from a performance standpoint. How do we maintain that or enhance it by the changes we put into a rehearsal schedule, particularly on show day? I think we can make modifications to a rehearsal schedule so that you don't lose any instruction. Those are the kinds of things I would love to see.
Just to put an exclamation point on all of this, heat is now the number one weather-related killer.
And it dwarfs all of the others combined. You add tornadoes, you add hurricanes, you add floods, you add cold, snow, ice, you name it. You add all of those up, they do not meet the number of fatalities we see directly due to heat.
Kevin Kloesel, thank you for your leadership on this topic. We appreciate
Absolutely. It's an honor.
Dr. Kevin Kloesel, meteorologist at the University of Oklahoma and Drum Corps International's chief meteorologist.